So for this week's video, I'm going to show you how to make what I call the Boom Boom pendant. This is a pendant that was inspired by the ring that I showed you 2 weeks ago. Then I went on vacation, so sorry for the week delay, but you know, you do what you gotta do. So these pendants that I've made here are all kits that we have to match the rings from last week. Here was the purple one to match the purple that I did last week. So basically what you'll want to do to start out with is you need to go back to the video, the ring video from 2 weeks ago, which was the Raging Rivoli ring. And you need to make the ring part again, the component ring part. And go ahead and completely encase your Rivoli, and you want to exit out of the 4mm bicone on the edge. Now this will be, Sammy will put a link onto the first video. If you don't know where to find it, he'll put a link on this one so that you can see it. But you're basically going to go ahead and encase it again. I couldn't do all of it in one video, or it would have been hours long, so we're just going to roll with it the way it is. So I've done the encasement. I am exiting out of a 4mm bicone along the outer edge of my circle. I'm going to pick up 3 6mm round pearls. I want to make a circle, so I'm going to come around and come back through the same crystal I'm coming out of to make a circle. So it'll be just like this. I'm going to come down through that first 6mm round that I just threaded on. I'm going to pick up 2 6mm rounds. I want to make a circle, so I'm going to come around and I'm going to come back. I'm going to come to the next 4mm bicone along the outer edge, and I'm going to come back through it, going back towards the beads that I just added. Right, I need to get all the way over here to get into position for the next circle. So I'm going to come down through this middle 6mm pearl, through the 2 beads that I just added, and then through the next 4mm bicone on my circle. Pick up 2 6mm pearls. My thread is coming out of the bicone. I want to come around to make the circle, so I'm going to come up through this middle 6mm here. Through the bicone I was just coming out of. And then down through the 6mm, this very first one that I added in this step. Pick up 2 6mm pearls. I'm going to come around to make a circle. So I'm going to come to the next 4mm bicone, and I'm going to come back through it, going back towards the beads that I've already added. I'm going to come down through this middle pearl here. Through the 2 pearls that I just added. And then through the next 4mm bicone along the outer edge. Sometimes you can do it in one step, sometimes you can't. So pick up 2 6mm pearls. I want to come back around to make a circle, so I'm going to come up through this middle pearl here. Through the bicone I was just coming out of. And then down through this first pearl that I picked up right here. Pick up two 6mm rounds. I want to come around to make a circle, so I'm going to come to this next 4mm bicone, and I'm going to come back through it, going back towards the beads that I've already added. Come down through this middle pearl here. Through the two pearls that I just added. And then through the next bicone along this outer edge. So far, what you should have will look just like this. I'm going to pick up two pearls. I want to come back around to make a circle, so I'm going to come up through this middle pearl here. Through the 4mm here along the outer edge. And then down through this first pearl that I just added. Pick up two pearls. I'm going to come around to make a circle. So I'm going to come to the next 4mm bicone, and I'm going to come back through it, going back towards the beads that I've already added. I'm going to come through this middle pearl here. And then through these two pearls that I just added. And then through the next bicone along the outer edge. Pick up two 6mm pearls. I want to come around to make my circle, so I'm going to come up through this previous pearl. Through the 4mm bicone that I was just coming out of. And then down through this first one that I just added. Alright, now this is what you should have. And what we need to do at this point is we need to finish up this last circle here. So I'm going to pick up one 6mm pearl. I'm coming out of the last pearl. So I'm going to come across here to this first pearl here to the side. And I'm going to come up through it, coming towards the center of the piece. So that when you pull, now this finishes out your last circle. But to get into a position to finish it out, we need to go through the 4mm bicone and then down through this last pearl. Alright, so this finishes up our base for the embellishments that we're fixing to do. So at this point you're going to need your 3mm bicones and your size 11 seed beads. To start, you're going to pick up a seed bead, a crystal, a seed bead, a crystal, and a seed bead. Your thread is exiting downward of this pearl right here. So I'm going to come, we're only going to be working with these inner pearls here. We're not going to be working with any of the outer pearls right now. So I'm going to come to the next pearl, and I'm going to come right down through it. So it's going in the same direction. The thread will be going in the same direction as it is with this first, or this last bead that we were coming out of. So that when you pull, your beads will lay diagonally across this little section here. So we're just going to continue. We're going to pick up an 11, a 3mm, an 11, whoops, that's not it, an 11, a 3, an 11, a 3, and an 11. This is going to be the same count all the way around. Come to the next inner pearl, and I'm going to come down through it just like I'm doing, just the same direction the thread's exiting. I'm going to come just right down through it. Pull, so that way there's another diagonal across. And you're just going to continue to do this around the circle, filling up these holes. So I'm coming out here. I'm going to come to the next inward pearl, and I'm going to come down through it. Pick up your sequence of beads. Exiting here, take your needle, come to this very next pearl, and just come down through it. And just continue this around the circle. So once you've gone all the way around the circle, this is what it will look like. This is the first pearl here that I started with when I went around the circle. Now, we're going to work back counterclockwise around the circle now, adding the rest of our shapes here along the edge. So, to start out with, and I'm going to see if I can zoom in without getting it too blurry here so you can see it. You want to pick up a seed bead and a 3mm. Now the first set I worked around this way. This time I'm going to work back around to the start. This was the last set here that I put on, and I'll pull it back so that you can see. This is the last set I put on. So I'm going to take, and I'm going to come through the middle seed bead, coming up towards the center. Just that one seed bead. And I'm going to hold it in place and pull the thread so that when I pull, I've got my seed bead and bicone that I just added. Now I'm going to pick up a bicone and a seed bead, and I'm going to come to my pearl, and I'm going to go down through the pearl just like I normally would. And pull and make sure that your little X shape is even before you move on to the next one. So my X looks pretty even here. So now I'm going to pick up a seed bead and a 3mm. I'm going to come up through the middle seed bead of that next little shape, coming towards the center. Put my finger on it and pull. Now I'm going to pick up a 3mm and a seed bead. I'm going to come to the next pearl, and I'm going to go down through the pearl just like I normally would. Make sure that little X shape is nice and even before you move on to the next one. So we're going to repeat this around the whole thing, picking up a seed bead and a 3mm. Come to the middle seed bead here. Go up through it, going towards the center. then a 3mm and a seed bead. I'm going to come to the next 6mm round, and I'm going to go down through it. And again, make sure that X shape is nice and even before you go on to the next one. And you're going to repeat around the circle. Once you've gone all the way adding your X's, then you're ready to start the finishing steps of the pendant. So I'm coming out of the last purl that I went through, and I'm going to go through one of the 6mm pearls here along the outer edge. Doesn't matter which one you go through, you just have to continue on in that direction once you start. Now here's the tricky part of this pendant, and I've yet to figure this out. The only thing I can figure is different brands of beads will constitute different results. Okay, so this purple one here was the very first one concept that I made from the ring from last week. This is the very first concept ring. Now, basically, right now, our pendant has holes all the way around. We don't want to see those holes. So what we want to do is we want to go through and we want to add some beads along the outer edge to finish it. Now, this has Preciosa and Thunder Polished crystals. And along the outer edge of this pendant here, I had to put a size 15 seed bead, a 4mm, and a size 15 seed bead to fill up the holes completely in the pearl section. Now, on the rest of these, here is the underside of the dark one, the underside of the pink, and the underside of the gray. I did not have enough room to add the 15s in between these. And the only thing I can figure is this is all one brand of crystal. This is all one brand of crystal. And this is all one brand. So it's going to depend on the brand of your pearls, the brand of your crystals, the whole 9 yards as to how you do this part. But however it works out, I'm going to show you how to play with it and see. I'm going to pour out just a couple of 15s here. And I'm going to pick up a 15, a 4mm, and a 15. And I'm going to come through the next pearl. And it lays perfectly in there exactly like I want it to. So I'm going to check. I'm going to go through a couple of these pearls here and check and see if the 15s will fit along the outer edge. Sometimes when you get about halfway through, they'll quit laying smoothly and they'll try and pop up. If that's the case, you need to pull back out and only add a bicone, which it looks like here that these 15s are going to work in here. If your 15s or this little section kind of pops up and it looks wonky, just put a 4mm bicone, but do not pull tight. If you pull super tight, it's going to really dome up and not look pretty, not going to lay as flat. So if you see that 15, a 4mm, and a 15 will not fit in this part of the area, just do the 4mm. But again, do not pull super tight. If your 15s are meant to go in here, they will fit just like a glove. And this is only the second one out of 6 that I've made that had to have these 15s. So we're going to go all the way around, adding a 15, a 4mm, and a 15 until I get back to the very first pearl that I started with. At this point, the construction of the pendant is finished. And all you have to do is add the bell to it. Now, on all of these bells that I've created, I've used 4mm bicones to do the bell. And this works really good. And this is wonderful, except for I'm at home today working on this video and I have run out of the 4mm in the color that I used. So I'm going to try and use 4mm round pearls in the same color pearl that I used and see how this turns out. You'll want to use your 4mm bicones, or if you like how my pearls look, you're more than welcome to use pearls. So to start out, I'm going to pick up 3 4mm either pearls or bicones. I'm coming out of a 6mm pearl, so I want to come back through and back around through that 6mm pearl to make a circle. Let me zoom in just a little. Alright, and I'm going to pull that on through. Actually, I'm going to pull this out. I forgot to add my little seed beads. Sometimes it's just as easy to take the needle off and go at it. Alright, so let's try this again. 2 11s, 3 4mm, and 2 11s. I'm going to come back through the pearl to make a circle. Much better. Okay, I'm going to go through all these beads that I added again to reinforce this circle. This is the start of our bell so that we can hang the pendant. Alright, now to get into position for the next step, I'm going to go through the 2 seeds and then 2 of the 4mm that I added. So I'm coming out of the middle 4mm. I'm going to pick up 3 4mm. I want to make a circle, so I'm going to come back through that same round that I'm coming out of to make a circle. I'm going to go through those 3 beads again to reinforce. Go through the one I was originally coming out of here. And then to get into position for the next circle, I'm going to go through 2 of the 3 that I just added. So I'm going to go through 1, 2. Right, I'm going to pick up 3 4mm. I want to make a circle, so I'm going to come back around through the same 4mm that I'm coming out of to make my circle. I'm going to go through these 3 beads again and then through the one I'm coming out of to reinforce. Now you'll want to make the length of the bell. You'll want to keep testing it by kind of just bending it over like this so that you can see how big you actually want the bell to be. And that will determine what you're going to thread it onto. Like if you're just going to, are you going to do something beaded to put it on? Are you going to put this on a cord? Different things like that. So have that in mind as you work on the bell of your piece. Now to get into position for the next step, I went ahead and came on through 2 of the 3 that I had just added. Pick up 3. My thread is exiting in this direction. I want to come back around to make a circle. I'm going to come back through the bead. Through all 3 beads that I just added to reinforce. Through the one I was originally coming out of. And then to get into position, I'm going to come through 2 of the beads that I just added. Alright. Bend it over to check. This is what I've got so far. So I think I'm going to do one more loop here. So I'm going to pick up 3 beads. Normally I set out 17 4mm. I set 17 to the side, and this is what I make the bell with, is those 17 beads. So come back through the same bead you're coming out of to make the circle. Go through all 3 again to reinforce. Through the one you were originally coming out of. And then to get into position, I'm going to come through the next 2 beads here. So 1 and 2. Alright, now I'm ready to finish up the bell. So I'm going to pick up 1 pearl and 2 4mm, or 1 pearl and 2 size 11 seed beads. I'm going to bend the bell over itself, and my thread is exiting in this direction, so I'm going to take those beads that I just added, and I'm going to come through that same 6mm pearl. I'm going to come through it going in this direction, so that way it will finish up this one side of the bell. Now I'm going to pick up 2 size 11s and 1 4mm, and I'm going to come to this middle bead and go ahead and go back through that middle bead so that that finishes out this circle. So that now the bell is connected and I have a good size loop here for whatever I want to put it on. I'm going to go ahead and reinforce this one more time. So I'm going to go through the 4mm and 2 seeds, through the 6mm, and then through the 2 seeds and the 4mm. Now you could leave this if you wanted to, but I don't think it looks finished. So what I do is I take a size 11 seed bead. I'm coming out of the 4mm here on this side, and I'm going to take a seed bead and I'm going to go straight through the next 4mm on that side, so that that kind of fills in that hole. And this is not, you can't see the thread as much using the bicones as you can using the round. So that's another thing to think about too, because this is what the finished bells look like, adding the seed beads in between them. So you don't see that thread like you do here with the pearls. So that's a thing to think about too. But I basically am just going to take a seed bead and fill in my spaces along one side. I'm going to come through this last 4mm and my 2 seed beads. And then I'm going to go through the 6mm, through the 2 seed beads and the 4mm on this other side. And then I'm going to do it again. I'm going to pick up a seed bead and go through the next 4mm. I'm going to do this on both sides, adding a seed bead. And it could be that you could put in a 3mm bicone here if you used the pearls, or you could even bump up and put a size 8 seed bead here in this hole also if you wanted to, if you're going to use the pearls. But once you have, sorry guys, didn't realize I was out of the picture there. But once you are adding the 11s and you get back here to this side, just go on down through the 4 and the 2 11s. And then go through the 6mm. Make sure you don't have your thread caught anywhere. And then you're ready to stitch through and tie it off. So I'll go through some of my beads here along the outer edge. And I try to put my knots, if there's a 15, if you get to use a 15, I try to put the knots between the 15 and the pearl. If not, just put it between your 4mm and the pearl. But I'm going to do a couple half-hitch knots, so I'm going to leave myself a little loop here, go through the loop and pull, making sure that knot goes in between the 15 and the 6mm pearl. And you want to thread around, doing some half-hitch knots, and then trim the tail. Now that you've trimmed the tail, you have a beautiful new pendant to wear. I love these pendants. I think they're really, really pretty. They're almost Victorian looking, and I think these would make great Christmas gifts, birthday gifts, really dress up an outfit. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. We will have kits for these 4 colorways on our Etsy page, as well as the pattern. The pattern for this one is about 30 pages, but it is because I go step by step by step, and it's got lots of pictures, and you can get that on our website, offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com, or through our Etsy page. So we'll see you next week for another fun project.